All right, so security in fast API. So first of all, what exactly do we mean by security in fast API? So when you hear of people saying security in an API is basically authentication in an API. So why do we need this authentication? Why don't we just let this API be open to public use? Well, you can't let your API to be open to public use, but then there are some applications that require that one has to be authenticated. A typical example of them is your LMS. Now, without authentication, we don't know who is who. We don't know whose grade is whose grade, and then we end up carrying someone's grade and then giving to another person's grade. But with authentication, right, we tend to know who is the current user at the moment. Okay. So that's the whole purpose of authentication. So we're gonna see how we can implement this in fast API. Okay, in fast API. So we are basically gonna see how we can make our endpoint to require one to add to login or to authenticate. Because when I say authenticate, I simply mean login. So it's either you're logging in or you're being authenticated. So those two things that they mean one thing. So when I say authenticate, I mean to log in. So same thing happens with our different social media platforms or social media applications. They require you to actually log in because like I said, if you authenticate, we tend to do what we tend to know who is currently logged in at the moment, and then we can do what we can provide any specific information pertaining to a specific user, pertaining to that specific user. So that is basically security in API or in fast API, you want to call it. So we're gonna see how we can implement this. And with that, we're gonna do our normal routine where we get to put on our environment and then our folder and the rest of those things. So quickly, we'll just navigate to my project folder, which at the moment, which we already know, it's in my desktop. So I'll just navigate to desktop and open that up in command prompt. The reason for that is because I cannot open up a folder via in VS Code in my file explorer. So for that reason, we tend to always copy the directory and then open it up in command prompt. Okay. While command prompt is coming up, so we simply change direction to there. VLOP script activate, and then we just cd in domain and then open up in VS Code. So what that is coming up, let's go ahead and open up our Postman. Go ahead and open up our Postman. Okay, so we have our code here, and this was where we left off in our previous code. We have a lot of comments on source code. We have a lot of comments here on source code. So we'll just continue working with this file for now, and then sometime in our future classes we'll start to arrange them appropriately. But sometime in our future code we'll start to arrange these things appropriately. Okay, so So one thing you should understand about the flow of security is this. All right. So basically, we will have a route. Okay. We will have a route. Okay. And then we intend to make what to make this route to be secured. And and in order for us to make this route secure, we'll use a built-in library in fast API called O2Auth. Okay, so we have a library called O2Auth password bearer. O2Auth password bearer. So I just upgrade it as O2Auth as rather OAuth 2, sorry. OAuth 2. So I read that as that. So that is the library in fast API that we will use in authenticating users. And how does OAuth 2 work? Now, the way OAuth 2 works is this. Okay. Once a request is made, right? Once a request is made, once once a request is made, okay. Once a request is made, it could be any request. It could be a GET request. It could be a POST request. It could be whatever request. Now, when the request is being made to a specific route, okay, a specific route, and then this route is being secured with what we call auth 2. Now, what happens is that OAuth 2 will go ahead and check the request headers. So OAuth 2 will check the request headers for a key or authorization. Authorization. And if available, then it returns the key. It returns rather the value of that key. And if not available, it denies access. You understand? You understand how that flow works?
No, sir.
Right.
Yes, sir.
All right. So let me go over that one more time. Right. Let me go over that one more time. Okay. So I'm saying that in order for us to authenticate or secure a specific route, right? That they must have that we're gonna make use of what of a library called OAuth 2 password bearer. This is the full library name, password bearer. Okay. Then what happens is this: once we pass this library, okay, because this is a class, right? This is a security class. You don't have to know what code is in that class, but it's a class that someone has sat down that Fast API has that since that we can pass as a dependency to our route. And what happens is that once we pass that class to a dependency to a specific route, okay, that we intend to secure, that the way this class works is this: once that request has been made to that route, okay, that route that has what that has O2 auth password bearer that as a dependency, then the class will do what will go ahead to check the request header. Now your request comes in different sections, right? So we have the request line. Now the request line basically carries information about the type of request that's being made, and then we have the request header. Now the request header actually carries additional information about that specific requests such as authorization key and any other information that is required or that may be needed by the server. Okay. Now, what happens is that this class will check your request header section, right, and look for a key called authorization. This key. Now, if that key is there, then what the class would do is simply return whatever value that key holds, right? Whatever value that key holds. But if that key is not there, if that key called authorization is not there, then it automatically deny access to that route. So it means that that request that has been sent will not actually get sent to your route handler. the class, the O2 auth password bearer class will deny that access, won't let that access go through. Do we understand? Do you understand?
Yes, I understand.
All right. So now there is also another conditional attached if that key is available. Now the condition is that it won't just return the value, but then it will also make sure that that value starts with the word bearer, followed by any other any other any other any any other characters. So what happens that the value of that key must start with bearer, followed by any other additional additional string, right? Now this string can be any kind of string, right? It can be a combination of any length. It has no problem. But as far as that value starts with bearer, then it is valid. Then that class would term that value to be what valid. But if it does not start with bearer, then that value will be termed invalid, which will still lead us back again to what to denying you of that access. Do we understand? Do we understand before we move into what implementing these things? Before we move into implementing these things. Do you understand? All right. So the silence means that we understand. Is there someone's mic was someone unmuted his mic? Okay. All right. So let's simply do what in this class. Let's simply bring in this class and let's start making use of it. So the class that handles security is known as, or the class that we'll be using for this particular class, for this particular Zoom class, right? Is known as O2 auth, O2 OAuth rather, OAuth 2 password bearer, OAuth 2 password bearer. Now that's the class that we'll use to handle authentication or login or what of users. So we can import that class from the security library of fast API. So we simply say from fast API, from fast API dot security, you want to go ahead and import O or 2 password bearer. That's the class we want. That is what we will use for authenticating of users. So we'll go ahead and we'll create basic route. We'll go ahead and just create some few routes here. And so I'll comment this one out again. And we should have fresh route altogether. But we'll simply just copy some few of this. I'll bring this man here. Okay. All right, so we have that route, and I'll just move this out. And I may also have another route. I may also choose to have another route, and this particular route I will call this route user route. Okay, and then I want to return the user info of that particular user and for now we'll just put loading user information for now. Okay, so those are the two routes that we have, and this should be user. Those are the two routes that we have available at the moment. So let's go ahead and start our development server. Let's go ahead and start our development server. So I'll switch this to command prompt, and I'll quickly we make use of uvcon main. Now, the reason why we normally use main is because that is the file we intend to execute. I think someone had that same problem, that issues on the group. So this main here is not it's not a keyword. This main here actually refers to the file that we intend to do what to execute, which in this case is our main.py file. If I had another file that say new, then this would have been what? New. Then this would have been new and not main. Right? Please not that main there is not a special word or a keyword. It's basically referring to the file you intend to execute. So in this case, we go back to what? To main. And then followed by the instance of your fast API. When I mean instance of your fast API, I mean where you have this, where you invoke your fast API. So the thing is that we invoked it and then we assign it to a variable called what? App. If we had assigned this to, let's say, hello, then in this case, this will be main column what? Hello. Do you understand that? Right. So the silence means that we understand that. Okay, so I'll change it back to app and then come back here and change it back to app. All right, and then dash reload. All right, so our application is up and running, and means let's put on our postman while waiting for that. Okay, so let's go ahead and just visit and make some uh, visit to our route. Make some visit to our route. Okay, so we have a route that has that. So that is one of our routes that says what? Our first API endpoint. But okay, that's an old message though. And then we also have another route. Okay, we also have another route here, and this way is user route. So we can also navigate to that user route, user, and then we also have what? The appropriate message. Okay, the appropriate message. So now let's assume that we intend to do what? To secure this specific route, right? We intend to secure that specific route because if we intend to load user information, we intend to know which user are we talking about, because people that we may have dozens of thousands of people doing what? Using the application. So which particular user are we intending to do what? To load his or her information? His or her information. That is the route that is the authentic, that is the purpose of what, of why we intend to do what? To secure, of why we intend to secure that route, of why we intend to secure that route. So like I said, that we do what? That we simply pass this class as what? As a dependency to that specific route. So in this case, if I intend to secure this route, then what I could simply do is I could simply pass what? A dependency, because I'm making some word of a depends library. I believe depends is imported already. I believe depends is imported already. Right, so we have that. So we have our depends there, and then do what? We simply pass what? Our auth password bearer as a dependency to that route. Now, like I said, that if this class, right, checks out that that we have what the that we have a key called authorization, what happens that it will simply send back what? The token. It will simply send back the token. So in this case, I would simply call this token because we are expecting this what? A token to be sent back. So at some point, we are expecting what? That token to come in. We are expecting that token to actually come in at some point. So if the token is there, then it's being sent. But if it's not there, then it will do what? It will automatically route that class back. Right. So now that we have that, okay, I will call this security scheme for now. I'll call this security scheme. Security scheme, because what we intend to do is that we intend to invoke that class out here. So we do what? We simply pass that invocation to what? To fast API. So to handle that, I will simply just call upon the class, in this case, also password bearer, and then do what? We invoke that class. And then do what? We invoke that class. So we simply pass what? That variable that holds the instance of that class to what? As a dependency to the route. But then this class actually takes in a required parameter. It takes in one required parameter. If you can see my down at my screen here, the down part of my screen, it says that what that we are missing a one required positional argument called token URL. So we intend to what to pass that parameter for that class. So we come back and we put it there. Now, what exactly is token URL? Token URL actually does not actually affect your code in any way. It's simply meant for documentation. Okay, because if I intend to use your API and then I now find out that some of your routes is what is secured, I also intend for you to tell me where can I go and do what and get authenticated. So that's the whole purpose of what of this token URL or this token URL. So it's basically a point to what to a relative path where a user or a client can do what can actually navigate to for what for authentication. So in this case, I will tell you go to what to login. So we don't have that relative path. And when I mean relative path, I simply mean a path after your domain. So similar to this. So similar to that path there. So basically now, so it means that at some point I have to come back and do one and create a route called login so that just in case one is not actually being authenticated, one can do what can simply go to that route and get what and get authenticated. Do you understand? Do we understand?
Yeah, please come again.
I don't understand.
Right. So let's talk about let's go over that again one more time. Okay, let's go over that one more time. Okay, so we know that okay that Fast API has provided us with a lot of classes that we can use for what for securing a specific route, right? Now, one of that class is called OAuth2 password bearer. OAuth2 password bearer. It's a class. It's a class. So basically, what you want to do is you want to bring in this class, and then we can do what, and then we can start securing some routes. So in this case, we have what we have two routes. We have the root route and we have what the user route. Okay. And then I'm not saying that I intend for us to do what to secure this route, right? It means that I intend for a user to be authenticated or to have logged in order to do what to have access to that specific route. Okay. Now, to do that, like I said, we can make use of what of the OAuth2 password bearer class. And how do we do this? We simply pass the instance of that class as a dependency to the route. So what do we mean by instance of a class? Similar to what we have here, to what we have here. Fast API. This is the instance of Fast API. So when I also mean the instance of OAuth password bearer, I simply means go ahead and do what and invoke this class like this, right? And then pass that instance as a dependency to the route you intend to actually secure, which in this case, what is this route? So what do? We simply do what we invoke it, right? We create the instance of that class, and the instance of that class we now assign it to what to a variable called security scheme, or we could call it security mechanism. Any any variable name you intend to do what to give it, there's no problem. And then you know what, we simply pass that instance as what as a dependency to the route we intend to do what to secure. And since we talked about dependency on, I think that was last week Monday, we saw that in order to pass a dependency, we simply make use of a depends function from Fast API. So we have that depends there. So basically, what you pass that function to your route handler function, and then you do what you pass the class that you intend to use as a dependency, which in this case is the instance of what of OAuth2 bearer, right? Now, but then there's the problem. We can't just instantiate this class as it is. We can't just instantiate this class as it is, right? We can't just instantiate that class as it is, because that class takes in a required token URL, like a URL, a path, a URL, or an endpoint that a user has to do what to go to in order to do what to get authenticated. Which in this case, we pass that URL as a string. to what to the parameter called token URL. And then I said that whatever we pass here should be what a relative path to our application. What do I mean by a relative path? So basically, let's assume that we deploy our application at www.example.com. Now, whatever follows after the domain is what I mean by relative path. So if I now have /login here, the login here, right, is relative to what to that domain there. So it must be a relative path. So it means that it should be a path immediately after your domain. So this simply means that I have to, at some point, I have to come back, right, and create a route called that should have a path called login that should do a handle whatever login authentication that we intend to handle. Is that understood? So this is the path that we are referring to here. Yeah, right. So when I say login, I'm basically referring. I think we've missed. I'm basically referring to this URL there, right? To the login route, right? Where the login there is what is relative to what to the application domain. Do we understand? So if here was to be, let's say, hello, then that means at some point I have to come back and create a URL that has hello, that has a hello as a relative path, and then come here and create it by putting what, calling this path hello. Do you understand? Do we understand?
Please, I have a question.
All right, yes.
Yes, sir, please, does it mean that we have to create another endpoint? Like we cannot make the token URL to be user where you use the dependence security scheme?
Okay, all right. Yes, you can't. Not that you can, but then it wouldn't be proper because your URL is basically where a user that is not authenticated should go and do what and get authenticated. So now, if you now specify user as where you should do what go and get authenticated, it means that there's no way someone can actually get authenticated, because in order to get authenticated, it means that you have to even be authenticated. That's what it means. Right? Because already we've you must go to that route. And then that route is not telling you that you must be authenticated, but you're not authenticated. So basically, you want to point to a route that is not actually secured. Okay, you want to point to a route that is not actually secured. Right. So a typical example is a route like this. So when I say a login route, it's basically where you can actually use to log in your users. If I'm to log in users, what do I need? I can it's simply to create a URL that takes what username and password. If I intend to use what to make use of username and password for what, for authentication. Okay, for authentication. So but then if I intend to use probably email and password, then that route should be expecting what, a post request and a response, sorry, a request body that contains what, email and password, so that I can do what, go ahead and use that for what, for authentication. I'm making sense. Can you guys hear me?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
All right. So sorry, I didn't even notice that at some points I got logged out. So that's so I was saying that yeah, that you need to, or you will want to point to what, to a route where you do what, where you get to authenticate the users. So if your route where you intend to authenticate users is www.example.com/sign up or login or hello, then you want to provide that route, that path name after the slash, that path name as what as a token URL value, right? Now what happens is that in the documentation, Fast API will do what we will now show that URL as this is where you can go and log in, right? Now you wouldn't want to point to a route that is secured and then go to that route and go and log in, because how can they even go to a route and that is actually secured, which means that they can't actually access that route. There's no way of them even doing what, getting the means of doing what, of logging in, right? So basically, you want to point to a free route, a route that probably should expect a post request. I think because that is the most appropriate HTTP request type, okay, that you want to use in that route. A post request that should do what? That should take a username and password. If you intend to use username and password to what, for authentication, or email and password, whichever one you intend to use for authentication, you want to point them to that route that has the ability to do what, to collect those information, and from there you can do what, log them in, right? And then once you log them in, they can now do what, go back to that route that they were not able to access, and do what, and start accessing them. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
Is there someone that is still lost in this ministry? Let's
Yes,
go over it again.
sorry, please, I want to ask, how do we import
Okay.
this alt to password bearer?
From fastapi.security. All the way
Okay,
up. Here it is. From fastapi.security, we import auth2 password bearer.
okay. Thank you.
Any other question? Any other question? Any other question? All right, so the silence means no other question. All right, so we're gonna point them to a route called login, which is this route that we have here, to do what, to get authenticated. So I'll call this login. So that is where I will intend to do what, to point them to. Whoever that is not authenticated should do what, should go there, right? So it means that any route that uses this particular O2 password bearer, we intend you to do what, to go to this specific route and get authenticated, right? And get authenticated, which in this case is this man, So you could say that if we try to access this user again, then we should now have the appropriate error saying what, not authenticated, that we're not actually what, authenticated. So before now, we were able to do what, to view that URL. We were able to do what, to view that URL. So, but then if I try to view it again, you get to say what, we get to see that what, that it shows us what, not authenticated. That message there is not from us. It's directly from what, from the O2 auth password bearer class. So like I said, it checks if your request carries what, it checks your request header section for what, for a key called authorization, and then check the value. If the value starts from bearer plus any other strings, then it do what, it will show you the appropriate response for that route. But then if you carry out this check and then this check doesn't actually work out as expected, then this message is what is being sent directly from that class. Do you understand? Do you understand?
Yes.
All right. So let's go ahead and
I have a question.
press. What's the question?
So can we pass another message apart from this not authenticated? Can we pass another message apart from
Like
this?
what kind of message?
Like maybe to tell the user exactly what he or she typed wrong, something like that.
That's exactly the problem here. You're not authenticated. Which which other way? Well, you can, but then you have to inherit from that class, and then you override the whole class. But I believe that this message here is clear enough that that one is not authenticated. But then you can, right? You can actually do that. You can inherit from that class and do what, and override the class. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
Right. So that can be done, right? That can be done. That concept can be implemented, but I will not do it in this particular class. Right? In this particular class. Probably when next we meet in the intermediate class, we can overwrite it. Right? All right, so let's simply continue, right? So that is basically how that class works. That's basically how that class works. Now, if you remove this, then you can see that that route is no longer secured. It means I can just simply go back and view that route whenever I see fit, or whenever I see need to do what to view it. You can see that I now have the appropriate message or response from that route. But then when we put it back, once we pass that class instance as a dependency, then what happens is that route becomes automatically secured. So we have the message saying what, not authenticated. So as such, one has to get authenticated. So now, where do you get authenticated? That is where your token URL comes in, the login route. So right now we have not set that up, okay? So I can come here and set that up. So I could also for this, right? For this, I would say that I intend for one to do what, to send us two things. So I'll create a class up there, probably up there, and this class would be for my authentication. So I have a class here, user, and I'll call this class user info, and this user info should inherit from base model, because I intend to do what, to also carry out some validations from validations there. So from Pydantic is model. Okay. So we are gonna do what, we're gonna provide some attributes that we intend to do what, to collect from the user, which we already know this, right? Because we did this sometime in our previous class. So for this particular security, I want to make use of username and password. You can choose to use email and password, or whatever you intend to do, to use for this authentication. But for me, I want to make use of username, and username must be a string. I think that will be the only basic variation that I want to pass there. I don't want to go into much variations like the length of your username and other stuff. I don't want to go into that. But this alone is good to go for us. It's good to go for us. So we'll go back to our login route, and then I will simply call this user, and then I'm expecting this to come from our request body. Then at some point, I want to do what? I want to first of all check. I want to first of all check if user do exist, because you don't want to authenticate someone that doesn't actually exist in our database, okay? And then if they exist, and check if they are check if their credential, if their password matches with username. If it does, then I want to finally authenticate. Authenticate here means give a token, provide token. So this token is what I will use to know, okay, that this particular user is what is of our is from our system. All right. So this token is what I use to know, okay, like this particular token is for this specific is for this specific user, and this particular one is for this specific user. So anyone that actually gets authenticated actually gets what a token. So that token is what you will use for what for every route that requires you what to actually log in. Now remember that what that our OAuth 2 password bearer expect that what that your request comes with a key called authorization, and then the value should start with bearer and any other character. Now that other characters is what is the token that we intend to add there, right? Is a token that we intend to add there. So it means that for each time you want to visit a secure route, you know what? You simply pass that token back to us, and we will do what? Go ahead and decipher it and know, okay, this particular user is this particular user, and then we can do what we can grant you the access that you desire or that you want. So that is how that will work. That's how that will work. But for now, I would simply just return user, and in this case, just user dot username. So I don't intend to return the client password. Please don't in all you do, never send back a client password. Right? If you're getting a password or any sensitive information, please don't send it back. Right? Don't send it back, please. So in this case, I only intend to send your username because I can get your username, but it doesn't mean that I can access your account. It simply means that I will need what your password. So in that case, I'm not sending back the password. I'm only sending back what the user name, right? And this should be a post request. So it means that it should be a post request. It means that what they are submitting something. They are submitting something. All right. So going back to our route, we try to access, is not working. So we go to our postman. So let's also access it from postman. So you can also see that this works regardless if postman or your browser. So I will make that request here again to postman, and we should still have the same thing, the same error. So postman is taking time to load. It should not. It's loading. You see. But already I have seen the on authorized. So now we are waiting for the appropriate message to something went wrong. So I think this problem is from postman. The case may be. So let's close that off and let's make a new request. To send. Request did come went through. Same postman is having problem. Please open that up back again. Postman. So we're waiting for that to come up, which will come up soon. Will come up soon. Okay, so let's try. Let's go ahead and make that request one more time. And, still having some of the same. All right, so that is the appropriate response that we have. They're not authenticated. So remember, I said that the reason we are having this message is because of this man, the OAuth 2 password bearer. So the OAuth 2 password bearer expect that your request should carry some header key in your in some authorization key in your header section. So I can actually add that now, okay, and then we can just try and see if that will actually work, which it will work. But then the token that we want to send back, we want it to come from our server. So we don't want a situation where someone can put a random token there, right? And then we do what? We authenticate you. That wouldn't be the case. But let's just put a random one here, and then we get to see that what that user will be able to access that specific resource. Okay, so let's go to the header section of our request. And for this header section, I want to add a key. So these are the default ones. So this most of these tokens or most of these keys you are seeing here comes by default, right? So it's more like a default information that's been added by Postman to your request. So you can leave them as it is. You simply just add yours to those existing one. So I add authorization because that is what OAuth 2 is what is looking for. And then this value must start with what? With bearer. So we simply just put bearer there. And then some random token. Some random token. That token can be of any length. It can be of any length, but then it must start with what? With bearer, follow with some random token. Some random token like that. Okay, so let's simply test this out and let's be sure that this is working as expected. So let's send this request again. And then you see that we are able to do what? To access that route. So that's basically how authentication will work. So we intend to do what? To be sending this token out, and then whichever user that intends to make use of our API will do what? We simply add authorization alongside with that token for that specific request, and we can do what? We can process that token and do what? Send back the appropriate response body. The appropriate response body. I hope you're following. Is anyone that's lost? I hope you're all following.
Sorry, please. I'm lost. In my own, I'm not seeing that authorization in my Postman.
Yeah, you simply need to add it. I added mine, so it wasn't there. So you simply
Okay,
just type generation. Yes, just you can just where you see key, just type in the authorization, right? And then add bearer and then any random value. Any
okay.
random value. Right. So now if I take this out again, if I unmark that and then try to make that request again, then we do what? We get not authenticated, which is what we want, right? Which is what we want. Which is what we want. Okay. But then you may actually be wondering, can't the user just type a random token like this and do what and view the information? Yes, user can type that and but then would not view the information because we are aware of every token that is being sent. We are aware of it. So when you send out or when you send back a token that wasn't sent by us, then we cannot still let you view this resource. Or if you send out or you send back a token that has expired now because this token has to expire after a period of time. Same thing happens once you are logged in, and then after a certain period of time, you try to access your page again. Then you get logged out. It's because your token has expired. So what happens is that you basically need to get authenticated again. So most of us have actually experienced that. So that will also do what make sure that happens here in this system. So we don't intend for be authenticated from now to the end of time. All right. So over a period of time, we should be able to access the what to get authenticated again. So we can be sure that is you are human. So you can be sure that you are human. All right. So let's go ahead, go to the login section and let's do what? Let's send the required things that we need to log in. So going back to login section, so I'll make a new request here, and this one will be login, and this is a post request. So this route is open, so I don't need to add authorization. So it's free. It's not secured. So there's no point of adding authorization here. So it's basically where you come to do what to get authenticated. So it means that this is the route you visit, and then you give your username and password, and you do what you get authenticated. So I'll go to my body, I'll go to raw, and then I'll pass my username and my password. So in this case, username, which is expected. And what in this case I call the sample, and I also have password, and in this case I'll call is 123. Okay, and then I'll do what I'll simply just say internal error. Let's see what is happening there. Internal, so that is a bug from somewhere. Okay, yes, so we have a bug here. So you see that's a bug from our system. So this should be user name, not user main. So this should be n and not. So I put the m where there should be n and n where there should be m. So that's the problem we had there. Okay, so user.username. Okay. So when we go back and then we make another post request, so we have the expected output. All right. So now this output also should come alongside with your authentication key. So that is the whole purpose of authenticating. We should do what we should be able to do what to send you a key. We should be able to do what to send you a key. So, but we also know that by default, before user even gets to log in, it means that you have signed up on our system. So I'll leave the sign up functionality to you guys. In your spare time, you can work on the sign up functionality. Okay, but this one here is what is the login functionality. So I will automatically assume that whatever user typed in there as username, that user does what exists in our system, right? So but then I want you guys to do what to make sure that that you've worked what the sign up functionality in your spare time. You sign up functionality. So I will assume that whatever username is typed in here does exist in our database or in our wherever we are saved. Since we haven't gotten to username, now probably in our list or in our dictionary, whichever one we are using for as storage. Okay, as storage. So so I will skip that because I want to assume that user does exist, and then I will also come back to this much later, right? I also come back to this. And then finally, we want to do what to provide you with the token. So I will simply just change this to what to token. So it simply means that after I've carried out all these things, then I want to do what I want to simply return what a token. And in this case, I want to make your username as token. Excuse me. I want to make the username to be a token. So going back again, and then we try this again, then we should have a token instead of of username. So this is what that user's token. So it simply means that for user to actually visit that route, that user must make use of this token here in his or her authorization value. So I'll put that there, and then I'll do I will send this, and then I will do send this. So I'll mark this. Sorry, I have to check this, and then send it. So now basically, since I'm the one that sent out that token, so I'm aware of every token that's left me. So in order for me to do that, I simply want to make sure that that if token, so it means that after you've sent it, I want to check that if token is what is equals to sample. For now, I was assume that we have only one user, which is sample, and that's the only valid token at the moment. For now, right? For now. So if user is sample, then what we simply want to, if token is what is sample, then I simply want to do to pass that value. Then else, then so okay, there's no point of else. So I can just put the return there, the return statement here. Then return, and then we can do we can handle the error here, right? We can handle the error there. So I will simply just rest rather than being returning. And in this case, I would put here that invalid authorization token, invalid authorization token, right? Invalid authorization token, and then we can do choose appropriate code. We can choose the appropriate response code that we see fit. So I'll leave it as it is. I'll leave mine as it is. So going back again, and let's go ahead and try it again. So before now, we could pass any random message here, right? and then make a request. So you see what we see, we appropriate error saying what invalid authorization token. So it means that at this point we can do what we can still handle the token verification. Because we are sending a token, it doesn't mean that you can come here and do what and put any random token there. We will still know, right? We will still know. So at the moment, we are only aware of what of sample. So that means if you put sample there and then send this, then that's what then I do what you get your own information. You get your appropriate information. You get your so this token is unique and is and as such that user should do or keep it safe. So but you as the end users, you may not actually see that token, but then that token lives within your mobile phone or within your devices. So what happens is that the client do what will fetch that token and then save it somewhere in your device, right? In your device memory. And then for each time you intend to visit a URL that requires you to actually log in, it simply just fetch that token there. So there's no point of coming back to do what to get authenticated again. So you keep using that token to whenever that token does what get expired. So that's what happens behind the scene of or that's what actually happens when you do when you actually log in a particular platform. So a token is being fetched and that token is being saved somewhere in your device. And then that token is being used to whenever that token is has expired. And then you can do what it takes you back to what to the login page. And then when you get login again, and then a new token what is being sent. And then that new token is still saved again and then keep being used whenever what is expired. So that process keep repeating itself over and over and over as far as that system still exists. Question before we proceed. Question before we proceed. Question. Question.
Yes, sir.
All right, please
Sir,
ask your
please.
question.
Okay. Sir, please, is this token used in the two-factor authentication?
If this token is being used as two-factor authentication,
Yes, that's my question.
yeah, this tokens can be used as two-factor authentication. But what I understand as two-factor authentication is after you've logged in, you can actually either add another means of authenticating. So it means that apart from your username and password, that probably a code can also be sent to your email. Now, usually this code are just random bunch of code. So it's basically not this token that is being used, but this token is being used for authenticating you. But then if there's any need of adding another additional layer of authentication, then it can actually be via your email. So what happens that they basically just generate some random code that will be used at that point. So after like few seconds, that code is being wiped out of the system. So at that point, you can do simply go to your mail and fetch that code and then use it at that point and then get authenticated. Right. It's not actually this code that's being used that because this code can be quite lengthy. This token can be quite lengthy. All right. So this particular token is for one layer authentication, except you want to add multiple layer. Probably after your after logging in with username and password, now take it to where you log in again with email and password, except that, right? Except that. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
All right.
That process
Any
is long.
sorry?
The process is very long, and I'm not too following.
The process of security in fast API is too long.
Yes, it's long in a way.
In a way. Okay.
Yes.
Well, the process is quite straightforward. If okay, if I'm to break this down, because I think in the process of trying to explain it to the least level, okay, so I think I tend to talk longer, right? So basically, it's more like a 3 or 4 step process, right? So the first process is where you do what basically just create the instance of your class, all right, and then you provide what a URL for logging in, for what for authenticating someone that's not authenticated. That is step one, right? And then step two is what it basically pass this class to any routes you intend to secure, like this route here, right?
Yes, sir.
And then step three, for each of the routes, you basically want to check that token that is being sent is what's sent from us, right? That is step three. And if it's not, then do what you still deny the access, or if it is, then you do what you show the appropriate resource. And then finally, there's the four. You do what you provide where a route where what for that authenticating. That's all. So first of all, the class instance, pass it as a dependency, confirm each of the token that is actually sent from us, and then finally a route that helps in authenticating. That's all. Is that still long?
I understand.
All right. Any other question?
Yes, sir.
All right, House.
Okay, so is it only in login that we can use this authentication? What of the aspect of, let's say, in the LMS now, we do not know like emotional part, or we cannot access it, right? Are we still going to use this authentication?
So if I heard your question correctly, you asked if it's only the login that we use for authenticating. Can't we use any other route for authenticating, right?
Yes, sir.
Is that it? Okay, that's okay. All right, so let's use the elements that we use every day or every week for our tasks. Now, is there any other routes that you use in logging in your elements? If you log out your elements now, is there any other URL that you use to actually log in? It's just one URL, right? Just one URL. Probably, I believe that URL should be, I think, code I think, slash login, right? It should be. I'm not sure, but it should be. I believe that is the URL, right, for logging in your CodeCamp, right? Your CodeCamp elements. Okay, let's assume that is the URL. Now, assuming we had this URL, right? And then we had this other one, say, and then probably in sometime in the future, or probably mistakenly, someone typed in codecamp/logins. Do you think this URL would work? Would take you to a page where you can put your email and password?
No.
It will not, right? So it means that for you to access that system, you have just one means of accessing it, and which is what codecamp/login, right? And then once you log in, you can do what? You can start tasks, doing tasks, right? And probably you can also what other thing can you do there? You can view tasks and you can submit tasks or submit tasks. Probably I just use those two, right? So it means that once you log in, you can see what you can see the following thing: viewing tax and what and submitting of tax. So you mean that this man here is not a valid uh, means of authenticating you to your elements, but this one is a valid one, right? Same thing happens here in our route. There is no other means of you doing what to use most of our URL except you come to probably this can be Python dash beginner bg. So it means that if someone else should go to Python slash dash bg slash logins, that person is on his own, right? We have no idea of such route, right? Same thing is happening here, right? So I'm trying to actually compare what we are doing here to what we've been using. So this is the valid what route to login to your LMS. And in this case here, this is also the valid route here to actually view some tags or some things in our fast API. And then this route here, right? Expect that you provide what I think email and password, right? I believe email and password, right? When you go to KodeCamp/login, what do you submit? Is it email and password or username and
Yeah,
password?
no, I think
Sorry,
it's email and password. Email and password.
email and password. All right. So now this route, the password, this route actually expects you to do what? To submit your email and password. Can you make a post request to that man? Sorry, to where your email and password is submitted to? No, you cannot make a get request there. You can't, all right. So something happens here. When someone goes to python-bg/login, we also expect for you to do what? To submit this time around, not email and password, because in our case here, we use what? Username and password. So this should be what? Username and password. So it means that for you to view tags and submit tags in your LMS, first of all, you must do what? You must go to KodeCamp/login. There's no two ways about it. If you go to KodeCamp/logins or KodeCamp/login/me or KodeCamp/us or KodeCamp.us/you, any other route again you go apart from this route has no ability to do what, to give you access to what, to your dashboard, right? Same thing happens there. Any other route you go in our application, there's not this route, there's not python-bg/login. We cannot do what, grant you access to most of the functionality of this application. But then this route also expect that you must submit email and password. KodeCamp/login expect that you must submit email and password. Same thing happens here. You must submit what, your username and what, and password. And then once you submit this, you can do what? You can now view or you can now see, let me know, you see your dashboard, right? Which has some certain capacity, like viewing of text and submitting of text. But before you even move from here to seeing your password, something happens behind the scene, which you don't know. But since you are now in the field and in the ministry of back-end development, you can now know, right? That behind the scene, what happens is that they will bundle, or your email and password is being bundled and sent to a server. And then that server sends back a token that means that this token now that is meant for Duncan, or this particular this particular token is meant for Precious, or this particular one is meant for Gaius or Messi, right? Now, for each person that submit their email and password, a token is being sent. For each person that submits their email and password, a token is being sent. And that action keeps happening for every user that submits email and password, right? So same thing happens there. Once you submit your username and password, a token is being sent, right? A token is being sent. Now, this token that is being sent, what happens? What happens? The front end engineer, now all this explanation now is what is this phase, just this, you moving from where you've submitted your email and password to seeing your dashboard, and now explaining what happens between that space, right? Between that space. So now once you submit that your email and password, a token is being sent for you, all right? But not as if it will be sent to your email, or Kulka will now call you, Mr. Gayos, please, this is your own this your own token, all right, take it and do and save it somewhere. No, what happens is that it's being sent to your device, your browser, right? To your browser. And that's why if you go to your browser and you clear your cache, you get logged back from almost all the applications that you logged in, because the reason for that is that your device actually stores some certain password for certain application. So that's what happens. And the front end engineer guys will take that token and store it somewhere in your device cache, right? And then what happens is that when you now move to where you can now see your dashboard, what happens is that your front end engineer will now make a new GET request to your dashboard. Now remember, your dashboard URL is what your dashboard URL is. It could be code camp, right? Slash dashboard, right? I mean that is a dashboard for CodeCamp. Now you see that these are two different routes: CodeCamp dashboard, CodeCamp login. Now, what happens that immediately after submitting, your browser will route you to CodeCamp slash dashboard. Now, what happens that once you submit your email and password, is that information is being bundled and being sent to the server. Now the server now check if that email that you sent actually exists in CodeCamp's database. If you think I'm lying, go back there and put in an email that you not use for this camp. You say that you say that email does not exist. So that is what is happening behind the scenes. So it checks if that email is there and that password matches that email, then what a token is being sent back to the front end in the people that built that Zen that you're seeing there, right? Because that token won't be sent to Mr. Gaius or won't be sent to Mr. Duncan. Be like, oh, take your email and go and save your login token. No, it's being sent to the people that built that front end application that you're seeing there. And what happens is they save that token in your couch or whatever means of storage, of temporary storage, right? Not a permanent one, it's a temporary kind of storage. That's why if you go to any of your browser and you clear your cache, you get, if you think I'm joking, go after this class, log in your code and then after clear your cache and try going back again, you say that you've logged out. Because that temporary storage that we're holding that token, you've got it out. So now we cannot, that token is no longer is no way to be found again, right? So what happens then is that you have to do what, go back again and do what, and log in, right? Now once you've logged in again, that token what another token is what is being generated and being sent again. Right now the front end engineer doesn't stay there and waiting for an empty token. There is a code that is there that get that token and save it automatically. So the engineer doesn't need to be sitting down there in the front end and waiting for guidance token or I've forgotten that name now, for message token or whoever token, right? And then he's saving it manually. No, there's a code for that. So there is a code that lives and breathes in that front end that you're seeing there. All right, so that code was saved that token automatically to your couch. And then what happens is that before it now takes you back to the CodeCamp slash dashboard, it appends that token to the header of that request, and then once this and then send it back to the server, and then since the server is aware of that token, right? It now says, okay, that this token is for what, is for Mr. Gaius, or this particular token is for what, is for Miss Precious, and then what happens? It will automatically route each user to their own, or it now do what, automatically fetch every data and that's related to what, to Mr. Gaius, and was sending back to the front end and guys, and then do what, they collect it and do what, and then they populate your dashboard, and then you can now do what, you can now see your tax, your own specific tax. All right. Same thing happens with when some other person does login. What happens? That their token is being appended to that request and being sent to the front end guys, so to the server, and then the server will get that token, right? And then, okay, this token is what is for so and so person, and then go ahead and do what, and fetch whatever information that relates to what, to that particular user, and send it back to the front end guys, and then the front end guys now does what, populates that particular dashboard for that specific user, right? Because if that's not the case, then it simply means that what, that each user should have a different dashboard route. But you can say that all of us here are sharing this one route, but having got a different information. Do you understand? Was I thinking?
Yeah, I understand.
All right. I want to be sure that we are still here. All right. So, any any question? Is there someone that is still confused of this ministry? Anyone? Anyone?
So I'm basically saying that if we follow this whole process, we can achieve security in fast API. So,
If you follow this whole process, sir, yes, sir, we can achieve security in fast API.
okay, sir.
But at the moment, we've not actually finished because we need to do what we need to provide that token. For now, we are using your username as token, which should not be so. So we need to do what we need to actually send back an actual token that we should be aware of.
Okay,
That we
sir.
should be aware of. All right. Any other question before we proceed? We have like few minutes left. So let's see what we can do in few minutes. Any other question? Question. All right. No question. All right. No question. Okay. Let's see how we can do how we can actually handle this token. Right. Let's see how we can handle this token. Let's see how we can handle this token. Right, so we're gonna make use of a third-party library. Because this library has no affiliation with Fast API. This library is called JWT. How many of us have heard of JWT? How many of us have heard of JWT? A library called JWT stands for JSON Web Token. JSON Web Token. How many of us have heard of JWT? Nobody have heard of JWT in the entire existence of life. All right, no problem, no problem. We're gonna see how JWT works. So JWT is basically a JSON web token that encode user information, right? And returns what a specific token. And this token can also be decoded to get the user information. And we're gonna see how we can what make use of this token of this library. And in this library will do what will help us to do what to generate this token. These tokens are quite long, right? They are lengthy in number, right? But then the good thing about this is that you can actually decode that token, right? You can, I thought that token was being generated by you can actually decode it, all right, to know what information what that token actually carry, because each token carries an information, right? Each token carries an information, and we want to do what basically see how we can do that. We want to basically see how we can actually do that. All right, so to make use of JWT, we need to actually install JWT. We need to actually install JWT, and we can do that by, let me end the close my server by simply saying pip install by JWT. So that is the library that we'll be using to do what to my server has refused to end. So that's the library that we'll be using to actually carry out this token generation. So to install it, we simply say pip install. This should be what is that? Pip install by JWT Python JSON web token be right. And then once you install that, that will give you what that library. That will create that library, and that will make that library available. And we can simply just see how we can use this library. we can simply just see how we can use this library for token generation. All right, so I'll just get out a very small instance of it, very small a sample of how this token of how this library works. Yeah, so let's put on our save file. All right, so okay, for now let's just work with this file. Let's work with this file here. All right, so I will simply import it down here. So let's go ahead and let's import JWT down here. So we're simply going to import it down here, and we're gonna see how we can use it. So import JWT. WT. All right, so now we have that library. Let's basically see how this library works, or how this library works. Let's see how this library works. So this library has a function called encode and decode, which is what we will use. This library has that function. So remember, this library is not fast API related. All right. So it's a standalone library. So if you intend to know more about this library, then in your spare time you can simply just uh head over to browser and then just have a glance at the documentation. The documentation is available out there. The documentation is available out there. So I will to actually have or to actually encode an information, because what happens is that JWT takes in information and it encode them and then send back that information as a token. We send back that information as a token. So to do that, we simply need to do JWT dot encode. And then this library takes in a lot of things. This library takes in a lot of things, and just few are compulsory. The rest are okay. The rest are actually, excuse me. The rest are actually optional. The rest are actually optional. And what happened here is that it takes in a payload, what we call payload. Now, payload is basically the information you intend to encrypt. So it takes in a payload. Now, payload is basically what the information you intend to encrypt. Now, it's called payload. Is by convention it's called payload. You can call it anything. So you can call it data. You can call it the information. You can call it anything. Thing is that this payload must be a dictionary structure. So it takes in a dictionary structure. Basically, the item that is the collection of item you intend to do what to encode. Now in this case, probably I want to encode just user underscore ID, user underscore ID. Sorry, user underscore ID. So I will simply just say user underscore ID and then I provide one. So I was, and then maybe I may also want to provide to encode the username, all right, the username, which in this case, the username here can be what can be sample. So that can be my payload, or that can be the information that I intend to actually encode, or to actually hide. Now, what happens is that after you have this, then you need to provide two required informations. One of the thing that one of them is what is this payload, and the other one is your key, your signature, right? What do you, or your signature? What do you intend to use to do what, to encode these things? So your signature is basically what, a collection of string, right? A collection of string. Now that string is what, it should be secret. It should be known to you, to only you as the developer. Because if I should have access to that key, I can actually decode anybody's JWT token, and we don't want that. We do not want that. Now we want a situation that we or only the developer should have access to that token. So that is the second thing that is being required. That is the second thing that is being required. And so then the first thing is what is your payload. So I'll provide my payload. And the next thing is what is your signature, or your secret key. You call it secret key. I'll call it secret key here. Secret key. Right. So here I'll just simply create secret key somewhere here. Right. So down here I'll have my secret key down here. And your secret key can, like I said, it should be personal to you. But for this class, I'll just put some random key there. Now, usually your secret key should be as long as possible. As long as the longer the secret key, the more tight the security. Because if I know your secret key, I can actually just decode whatever JWT token was sent from your application, and then probably fetch the information that I intend to do what to fetch, right? That I intend to fetch. Even this key should not even be made known to the front end engineer. Is for you, the developer, and you alone. So for this particular, just for this class, I'll put a key of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, as simple as that, right? Now, basically, there's a library that you can use to do what to generate a secret key. That library can just generate one long secret key for you, and you do what and you use it in your application. Once you get to deployment, that's what we will likely do. Our secret key will be generated from that library, and then we can use it for what for our signature, right? But for now, we will use this. So these are the two important things that the JWT dot encode takes. So it takes these two things. It takes these two things. All right. So, and with that, you've done what you've encoded, and that's simple, right? It's that simple. The library is quite straightforward. It's a very straightforward library. So I'll just probably assign this operation to a variable called token, because at the end of it all, I want to print whatever we have there. I want to print whatsoever we have here. So I'll just print token. But for now, we've not specified when this token should expire, right? Now this man, he actually takes in some expiration date, right? Some expiration another parameter called expire, I believe. Another parameter called expire. And then what happens is that once you have that expire there, what happens is this. What happens is that once we try to once the token, right, has actually expired, because what like it will throw an error that expired. So we want to actually add that when there is need for it, right? When the time comes, when the time comes. So to do that, but for now we are gonna leave this open as it is. So with that, we are just done with the encoding. So this is the payload, basically what we want to hide, and want to hide that with this secret key, right? It means that this should do what this should hide this for us, and send us what a token, right? So if I come back here and then we execute this file, then you tend to see a very long token. You can see this thing. That token that what that's being sent. It has loaded. So that is the token. So this is what you send back to the front end engineers. It means that for each time user needs to do what to log in themselves this token. And then how will we know that this token is valid? Right? How will we know that this token is valid? So I'll simply create another new file. Okay? I'll call this file 2 new2, probably new2.py, and I'll just copy what we have here. But around, I want to copy just this line. Okay, probably I'll go and move the rest of them. So this one here is I'll copy these ones, and I'll delete this one payload, because I don't want to actually encode, I want to actually decode. So like I said, if I know your token, I can do what your secret key, I can do what I can actually decode whatever information you have there. I can decode there. So having that in mind, having this in place, right? So now we can simply decode. We can simply decode it. So how would we do this? So how will we do it? So I'll copy our token that we have. Copy this and underscore token. Underscore token, and that's the token that has been generated. Now we want to do what to decode that information. We intend to decode that information. I think my network kicked me out. Please confirm that you can hear me now, please.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, sir.
All right. All right. So that's perfect. That's perfect. Okay. So let me just shift this. Why is it not being shift this up completely? All right. So I think that is that. I think that should hide more than that. All right. So okay, so now we have our token that is being generated from where? From here, from the JWT and library. And like I said, that your secret key should be what should be personal to you, should be a secret, of course. So, but then I was in that one that I still have that key. So now I have your secret key. I have what the token that is being generated. Now I can simply do what just decode the information. So this should be the information that is being hidden, or it should be payload, or call it data. And then what I'll simply do is what is to use decode, because the other one we use what we use JWT dot encode. Now I want to do what to actually decode it. And what do you want to decode? We want to actually decode the key that was generated. And then in order to actually decode, you need to provide the token alongside what with the key that was used in encoding that token, right? To sign that token, right? And that's where your secret key comes in again. So with that, I can actually what just get what the information that we need. So I'll just print that out for us. So if I run this again, if I run our code, then okay, so we are missing one more thing. We are missing one more thing, the algorithm that we use in encoding this. So the thing here is that we do not actually provide the algorithm. We do not actually provide the algorithm, but which that is not actually a problem. That's not actually a problem. Now the thing here is that if we don't provide the algorithm, the JWT will make use of a default algorithm called of a default encryption algorithm called HS256. HS256. So basically what we want to do is just basically come here and just say algorithm, and then this takes in this as a list. So I will provide here HS 256. That's the default algorithm if you don't actually provide one. So since we've already encoded, so there's no point of trying to put that here again. So I'll cut this out and take it to where we have to decode. So I'll put it here. So that's for that. And then when we try this again, then this should bring out the desired. It's required that it value for algorithm, and I'm calling it the code. That's exactly what I'm doing. So let's confirm that we're not having problem. So this should be algorithms rather. Sorry, this should be algorithms. So we missed our S. It should be algorithms because you can have more than your encoding can take more than one encryption type. Okay, but that's why it takes these things as a list, right? It takes things as a list. So if you use one, then provide one in that list. If you use more than one, then provide them as a list. So like I said, if you don't provide when encoding, that JW2 make use of this default algorithm when encoding it. But then when you intend to actually decode, it requires that you explicitly specify the algorithm. And because the decode function actually assume that you may have used a different one, right? So that's why it's actually being required. So now that we have that in place, then I can simply just go back and run the code again, and then do what we have the information that was encoded, which is exactly what we have here as the payload, the user ID and the user sample. So you can see that one can actually fake what this one can actually fake that token. We will know because once we try to actually encode it, sorry, to actually decode it, and then we can't, then we simply know one that token was a wrong token. That token was a wrong token, and that's basically what we want to do. That's basically what we want to do in our application. We want to make use of JWT to encode and to do what and to decode these people. Do you understand? Do you
Yes, sir. Yes,
understand?
sir.
All right. All right. So let's just replicate what we just seen in our actual application. So I bring in JWT. Like I bring in J. So up here I'll just bring in JWT, but JWT, and we'll just simply just put in the some required parameters. Some required parameters here. So I'll put in I'll have my secret key. Remember, this key has to be secret. So trust me, I will not deploy any application with that key. With a key called 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's impossible, right? So and then algorithm. We also need algorithm. Algorithm. Am I spelling algorithm right? Seems I'm not spelling it well. Algorithm. Okay, so that's it. And then for this algorithm, I want to make use of the fourth one, which is what we saw in our previous in the previous example. H is 256. Like I said, JWT is a very independent library. In our spare time, if we intend to at least see how this man works, we can do what we can always go back and do what and look up the documentation. Right? We can always go back and look up the documentation. So I have that in place. So I just simply go to where I want to do or start creating. So when a user tries to log in, then I want to actually do what carry out all these checks first. Then at the end of it all, I want to basically just provide my payload. By simply just provide my payload. In this case, I'll call it data. Data. And remember, data must always be a dictionary update. So I basically want to provide user ID because that's the only thing I need. If I have the user ID, I can fetch the user itself. So at this point, this is where after I've checked if the user exists, because and then they're part of match, I basically just want to do what provide the ID of the other user, which in this case I'll assume that the user ID is 1, right? I was assuming that the user ID is 1. That's the only thing I actually want to encode. With that ID, I can get whatever information I want about that user. I don't need to put in all these things. I don't need to actually put in how do you call it? The username and the rest of those things, the email and the rest of I can get the username and the email from the user ID. So for me, that ID is enough for me. But if you intend to still send out a lot of information, yeah, that up to you, right? You're good to go. You're good to go. So I'll just simply come here and just copy this man and go back to our main, and then we simply encode. So JWT.encode, in this case, my payload is my data. My signature is my secret key, which I have put up there at the beginning of the application. So once that has been done, then I want to simply just return the token. So which in this case is this. In this case is that. And then once the user tried to do what to once the user tried to actually access a specific data, then I want to actually go ahead and so I won't even need to do this again. JWT will carry out all the verification that we ever need. So I just simply say JWT does decode. In this case, I want to decode this token that what has been sent as authorization key, right? And then my secret key for this is my secret key, the secret key. And the algorithm we already specify algorithm, so there's no point of us explicitly writing algorithm there. So I'll put algorithm up there. Okay, like that. And that is that. It's just that simple. It's just that simple. Okay, so now if we try to access this and this line actually throws an error, then JWT will handle that error for us, which we'll come back and do that. So at this point now, I can actually just get info. the user, I could simply just say user info, because at this point, or probably user ID, because I intend to get the user ID. So and remember, this will do what, this will return, this will always return what, a dictionary structure for us, like this, like what we saw here. So seeing this will return what, a dictionary structure, I can now go ahead and just say I need the user ID, which is equals to and let's call this info. Let's call this user, which is equals to user, and then a string of user ID. And user ID is because that is what we want. We don't want the entire dictionary. We just want to fetch this ID from that dictionary, right? We just want to fetch that ID from that dictionary. So now that dictionary, once we decode this will be what, a dictionary, right? And it will be saved by we call what, call user, right? So I can simply just get the user ID, which is a key in that dictionary. And how do we get the key in a dictionary? We simply do, excuse me, we simply do what? We simply say the dictionary name, which in this case what is user, followed by what, the key name, which in this case is user ID. So at this point, I can just simply just return. Oh, that should be return, rather. Return. And then I want to return user info. User info. For now, we just return the ID of that user, which in this case is user ID. All right. So that is that. That is that. Question before we go ahead to test this. Question. Question before we start testing this. Question.
At least I'm a little bit confused.
Where?
Find the JWT.
From JWT, like, is it when we're doing JWT here, or when we actually brought it down to our actual file?
Find the other file, the new file.
From the new files. All right. So we said that JWT is basically what is a JSON web token. So what it does, what that library does is that it helps you to do what, to encode information with your secret, with a particular key that is being known to you, which in this case is what is your secret key here, this key here. So it helps you do what, to hide information using a key that is known to you alone, right? And then you can do what, you can get that information using that your key. So we save us the stress of doing what, of populating our database, because if we want to be generating key and also be remembering that key for each user, we mean that somewhere in our database we need to be saving those keys, those tokens, rather, right? But then generating does what, save us that stress. So you can do what, you can hide information with a token, or sorry, with a key, and then you can do what, get the information back using that same key. As far as it was that key that was used, you can get it back. So that's how that library works. So the library has two main functions: the encode function and the decode function. The encode function is what you use to hide. The decode is what you use to do what, to actually decode, right? Now, the encode takes in two required parameters: the data you want to hide alongside with the key that you want to use in hiding this information, which is what we did here. So payload here, what is this data? And the data you want to hide needs to be in a dictionary structure, a dictionary structure. So even if you want to hide one data, put it in a dictionary structure. Sorry, even if you want to hide one single information, wrap it in what, in a dictionary structure, right? And then finally, what, your secret key, which in this case is, we use this as a sample. But when we get to deployment, we don't want to use that. But that is way too easy. Okay. So, but we assume that to be what, our secret key. So what happens is that generally that library will do what, will automatically hide, or will automatically encode or hide this information, all right, using what a specific algorithm attached with what with your keys. So it can ask a mathematical thing like that, all right, and then just hide the information. And then what happened is finally then after this has been done, it sent back what a token, right? A token that you can use, or more like it sends back a representation of that information as a token. What do I mean? So it sends back this your information that you've hidden as a token like this. That the way is it like this? So this is the token that was sent back. So no, that token now actually holds this information that you've hidden, right? That token holds that information. So it means that if I want to get that information, all I have to do is to do what is to provide the secret key that was used in generating this token, right? That's where the decode comes in, because that level works. It has the encode and the decode. Now, while the encode takes in the information you want to hide alongside with the secret key, the decode takes in the token that was generated alongside with the secret key and the algorithm, right? Alongside with secret key and the algorithm, right? So that's what we had here. So what we send back that token that was generated, which is this long token here. So that was what was generated for us. So we send it back to the decode function, and then we send back what the same key that we used in encoding it. So if I change this key, I cannot be able to decode this information, right? It will tell me key error. So you can't actually decode that information. So now you see the beauty of this library, right? So it helps you to hide and also unhide information with a key and algorithm, right? These algorithms are basically mathematical principle that was used to do what to manipulate information, so that's what people can actually access it. And there are a lot of them. So HS256 is just one of them. If you navigate to this library documentation, then you will see that there are other algorithms there, right? There are other algorithms there. It's up to you to choose whichever one works best for you. But for this class, we make use of this particular one here. All right. So now once we decode it back, once we decode that token, right? We do what we simply get back what this data that was encoded, right? We simply get back that data that was encoded. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
All right. So once that has been, or once that happened, once that actually happened, or now that you actually understand the whole concept, we simply bring that concept to the application itself, right? To the application itself. So now, where do you want to do? Where do you want to send the token? Is when you've sent in, right? When you've gone in and then you've actually logged in. That is where we want to send that token, right? So now, since we intend to hide certain information, right? We simply go to the login aspect, and since I want to know each user that has actually logged in, so what happened? I simply just hide the user ID. So I say that in this case, I'm hiding the ID, because from the ID, I can get whatever information about that user. I don't, there's no point of me to add the username and email and the rest of them here. There is no point, right? Because with the ID, I can do what I can get all those information. So this is my information that I intend to do what to hide. So after you've logged in and I've checked that you exist in my database, right? I've checked this, right? And I've also checked that your password has matched your username. Then I can do what I simply do what go ahead and do what and get your ID from my database, and then do what, and then I go ahead and encode. Now to encode, what do I need? The data that I intend to hide alongside with the secret key. Same thing that we did here. Same thing that we did here. The data that we intend to hide alongside with the secret key. Same thing that we did there. And then finally, what happened? We now send back that token that's being generated. So that is the token that the client will always provide for each route they intend to visit, for each secure route that they intend to visit. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
All right. Any other question before we take this out and run it off for today? Any question before we take this out and wind up for today? All right, so the silence means no question. All right, so let's take this out and let's see if that actually works as expected. So I'll put up my server once again. Put up my server once again. So I'll say UVCon main app dash reload, and then we go back to our postman, and then I want to go to login because I want to do what I want to get authenticated. So I provide my username, I provide my password, and then I simply do what submit. And what do I have? I receive my own token. Now remember, this token is for the front end engineer guys. So what happens that somewhere in your device, you do what, do not carry token and go and save it either as a cache or as or whatever means of temporary storage. The non-carry token and save it there. That's why if you clear your cache, yeah, it's not even likely you get logged out from every application that you were logged in on that device without browser. You get logged out. Right. So now this token is what the user will always provide for any page they intend to do what to visit that requires what authentication. So one of that routes is what is our user route. Is this route, right? This route requires that what that you get login. Now we have this thing here, this sample. Now if you try to do this should not work, right? This should not work. So we have an internal error there, which in our next class we will handle that error properly. Now that error is caused because generator I've tried to actually decode what this token called sample, and it could not, right? It could not. That's why we're having that problem there. That's why we're having that problem there. So we will provide the appropriate one that was provided for us, and then we test that out. So we'll come back and then I'll paste our token here, the very long one, and then we do what we visit that route again. And then what happens? We have what the user information, or we have the appropriate information for that user. So it means that if Miss Messi want to also actually log in, she her own token to do what will be appended, and then request is what is sent. Same thing happens to Mr. Duncan, Mr. Gayot, and the rest of us. So that's why we do what we always get a different information, but what the same route. That's why CodeCamp slash dashboard is just one single route, but then all of us have what a different information on that route, right? That's what is happening behind the scene. Do we understand? Do we understand?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay. So in our next class, we'll just continue from here and then wrap it up because by this week we should run up teaching because by next 2 weeks we should start building at least mini applications that we can get ourselves ready for the project phase, right? So we don't go in there and get stranded or get lost in the ministry. So let's start building a mini application that may require some of these features when we get to our different project groups, so we can function effectively. So hopefully next class we should round up next class or after next week we should round up teaching, and then we use the remaining weeks for project that we can add to our portfolio and also get ourselves prepared for project phase. Right. So in the absence of question and any other business, please do have a wonderful good night rest. And I'll see you guys on Wednesday, 5 p.m. West African time. Bye for now.